Ya Baraka, Ya Baraka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Waya Shamaka, Waya Shamaka, Yahweh, 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 Panyawa Al Yak, Panyawa Al Yak, Waya Khanka, Waya Khanka, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yasha Yahweh, Yasha Yahweh, Panyawa Al Yak, Panyawa Al Yak, Waya Sham, Waya Sham, Laka Shalom, Laka Shalom, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shah, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Shah, Barak Rapah, Barak Rapah, Yasha Allah, Yasha Allah.
Shalom, shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Hashem Yahawashi. The lesson tonight will be the balance and brotherhood blueprint. You get the first slide on that. So this class was inspired by the principles that I continue to apply to stay on track and lock in since coming into the truth 7 years ago through watching classes and breakdowns just like this one on YouTube, listening and participating in the defense of the gospel and doctrinal discussions on Clubhouse, and then coming into the school of Ram Gadal Gabaryam over 4 years ago. Next slide on that. So during this time, I've personally felt pulled between 3 distinct levels of mastery in this walk. You have self-mastery, you have household mastery, and you have the mastermind within this brotherhood. So within these 3 levels, if they're out of sync, any one of them, you will experience a false balance, right? So with self-mastery, you'll have that internal battle that feels lost before the day even starts if you're not organized, if you don't have your vessel in order. With household mastery, your responsibilities might stack up on you. You fall behind, whether it be financially, whether it be relationship-wise, whether it be physical, not having your temple in order. You're not finding the balance point. Whether it's within the brotherhood, you fall behind as far as, maybe getting up, gathering together, the work that you do together, whether it be camp, whether it be training. All of these things play a part in mastery and understanding how things have to go, right? When you're first coming in, you're trying to build with brothers on different levels. So there's a mastery that goes into that. And read Proverbs 11:1.
Just the book of Proverbs 11:1. A false balance is abomination to the Lord,
right?
But a just weight is his delight.
So this lesson tonight is going to teach us all, because I learn as I teach, right? We go by the Spirit. It's going to teach us how to keep that balance that's necessary in brotherhood. Next slide. You skipped one. So yeah, go back one just to make sure, because I think okay, there you go. So we might even feel like we're actually grinding and putting in work when we're actually stuck in a loop. Some of us might be ghosting our brothers, going so far as to stay solo in our rooms and calling it a hustle, or being too busy or tired. And this may actually be true at times. But it's also true that some of us are leaving ourselves vulnerable to mental and spiritual attack, right? Give me the next slide. Take your time with that, because I know this is a new thing you're doing tonight. Just make sure you're not skipping. So read Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 1.
It's the book of Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 1. Through desire, a man, having separated himself, seeketh and intermeddleth with all wisdom.
Right. Give me Sirach chapter 6 and verse 2.
This is the book of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus chapter 6 and verse 2.
Mhm.
Extol not thyself in the counsel of thine own heart, that thy soul be not torn in pieces as a bull straying alone.
So sometimes we separate ourselves. We seek to intermeddle with different forms of wisdom. But the point is, in learning, sometimes knowledge puffs up, as the scriptures say, but charity is what edifies. We don't want to get to a point where we become so knowledgeable in a situation to where it creates pride. Because the scripture here, Sirach chapter 6 and verse 2 says, extol not thyself in the counsel of thine own heart, right? So we want to make sure that we're being balanced. Give me Hosea chapter 6 and verse 1.
This is the book of Hosea 6 and 1.
Mhm.
Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn and he will heal us.
Mhm.
He has smitten and he will bind us up.
So when it says, come, let us return unto the Lord, we're going through a current captivity right now, where we're being torn for disobedience to the covenant that was given to our forefathers, right? So we don't want to add to that. We don't want to add insult to injury by going in the counsel of our own heart, straying and being torn apart even further by straying further away, right? We want to be healed. And the way that we're healed, you're going to read that in Sirach chapter 6 and verse 16.
This is the book of Sirach chapter 6 and verse 16. A faithful friend is the medicine of life,
Mhm.
and they that fear the Lord shall find him.
So a faithful friend, and we're going to talk about the levels to this, right? Because you have brotherhood, you have friendship, right? And we're going to establish the differences between the two. But a faithful friend is the medicine of life, and they that fear the Lord shall find him, because that is a blessing to have a faithful friend, right? So some men are suffering from separating themselves to seek their own desires until they're torn in pieces, as the scriptures just brought out. And when a man operates only in his feelings, he becomes a target. Read James chapter 1 and verse 14.
This is the book of James 1 and 14. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust has conceived, it bringeth forth sin.
Right,
And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death.
right. So the point here is every man is tried and drawn out by his own desire, and when it becomes fertile, it gives birth to sin, right? So sometimes those faithful friends are the ones that are able to point out the seeds that you're planting in the spirit that we don't want to grow. We want to cut them off at the pass, right? So give me the next slide on that. I don't know if you got to mute your phone. So just as Noah was instructed to build, I just muted mine. Just as Noah was instructed to build the ark, we are instructed to build brotherhood. And in this world that we live in, we know that it's slowly declining to its prophesied destruction. Read Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 2 and 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Right. So we know that this system is coming to us, and we see it falling economically. We see these wars about to pop off to their full fruition. We see these nations being gathered together for judgment. In the process of doing that, though, there's something that we have to build for survival. We're going to talk about that tonight. Read Daniel chapter 7 and verse 18.
This is the book of Daniel 7 and 18. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
Right. So if we're going to take the kingdom, we have to be building amongst one another now so that we have the ability to coordinate under Yahawashi when he returns, right? Give me the next slide on that. So read 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10.
This is the book of 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be?
What manner of persons ought we to be? Go ahead.
In all holy conversation and godliness.
So the way that we establish godliness, obviously, is using the law, right? The law, statutes, and the commandments as a guide. But then we also have brotherhood that keeps us on track, right? So what sort of persons ought we to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Go ahead.
Looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved,
Right.
and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness.
So very much like being on a ship in the wind and the waves of a storm, if you don't have a trustworthy crew and a code that you abide by, the ship goes down and you all drown. Give me the next slide on that. So read Matthew chapter 24 and verse 36.
Just the book of Matthew 24 and 36. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, and shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
So the coming of the Son of Man, he said that people would not be paying attention. They would be business as usual. They would be marrying and being given in marriage. They would be eating and drinking. They would be doing the normal things, right? They would take no note of anything that's going on. But brotherhood is what holds us accountable to the times that we're living in, where we are in prophecy, and the things that we need to be doing to prepare, not only in the physical, but also in the spirit for the things that are coming on this earth.
Okay.
Give me the next slide on that. So 1 Kings chapter 2, read that.
This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 2 and verse 1. Now the days of David drew nigh that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and shew thyself a man, and keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself, that the Lord may continue his word, which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart and with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel.
So everything has to be done according to the law, statutes, and commandments as they're written, right? So if you want to be a mighty man, it starts with the blueprint that King David gave to Solomon. Those laws, statutes, and commandments. That's what makes us a nation of kings and priests. That's what makes us righteous. That's what makes us wise, right? Give me the next slide. So 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and verse 13.
Just the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 14 and verse 13. Now therefore set thine house in order, and reprove thy people, comfort such of them as be in trouble, and now renounce corruption.
So we have to set in order our own house first. Order doesn't start in public. It starts in your private life, your work, and your own personal discipline. Give me the next slide on that. So Exodus chapter 34 and verse 28. We're going to talk about the preparation that's involved in setting your house in order first. Go ahead.
This is the book of 2nd Exodus chapter 34 and 28. And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, and he did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments.
Right. Now, 1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 8, we're going to see a pattern here.
1 Kings chapter 19 and verse 8, and he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God.
Right. So now Matthew chapter 4 and verse 20 or 2.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 4 and verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward in hunger.
So we see Christ, Moses, and Elijah all fasted 40 days and 40 nights for their missions. So now we're going to talk about what that means for us today. I'm not going to tell anybody to go out here and fast for 40 days and 40 nights. You might not make it. We're not as strong as we were, right? We know that our strength has declined since. So go to Psalms chapter 5 and verse 3. Read that.
It's the book of Psalms, chapter 5 and verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
My voice shalt thou hear in the morning. O Lord, in the morning will I direct my prayer unto thee,
right,
and will look up.
Right. So we're directing our prayers to the Most High in the morning. A prayer is establishing what your intent is. You're making your request known to the Most High, and you're asking for His Spirit and His blessing, right? So in the same spirit as Christ, Moses, Elijah, we want to take at least 30 to 60 minutes of solitude when we wake up before we let the world in by touching our phones. Now, I'm guilty of this. This is something that I've had to work on. You know, sometimes the first thing that we want to do is reach for our phone and go straight to our DMs or, you know, a feed on Instagram or a text message to see who texted us last night or, you know, to check what happened in sports the night before, the game that we fell asleep on, right? You know, you want to catch up on who won the fight, right? You want to go on YouTube and see, you know, what's going on in social media. But the point is, we have to center ourselves. We have to put our house in order. And the way that we do that, it starts with us, right? That solitude, that theta state that your body's in, right? You want to make sure that you're putting the right instructions in there and the right meditations, because that's going to dictate your day. Give me the next slide. Read Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 7.
It's the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8 and verse 7. And if a man love righteousness, her labors are virtues. For she teacheth temperance and prudence, justice and fortitude, which are such things as men can have nothing more profitable in their life.
So prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance. These are the virtues you build when no one is looking. Can't build these in public, right? You have to build these in private. Let me get the next slide. We're going to talk about these things. So these words are not normal words that we use. So we're going to go into them. Temperance, right? So temperance is either abstinence from alcoholic drink or the quality of moderation or restraint or self-restraint, right? We could also call this self-control, which, by the way, temperance is a fruit of the Spirit. So we're manifesting one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit here. The next one is prudence. The quality of being prudent is cautiousness. Cautiousness reminds me of a scripture where Christ said that we should be what? Wise as a serpent and harmless as doves, right? Cautious, prudent. Justice is another attribute here. Just behavior or treatment. So when we think about just behavior, that makes me think of Ezekiel chapter 18 and verse 5, right? Where it talks about righteousness, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments is what makes us just, right? Or good. Fortitude, that's courage in pain or adversity. Fortitude is doing what you don't want to do or that you may be afraid to do in the face of such fear, doing it anyway, because it's what you're supposed to do or what needs to be done. And fortitude also goes into your level of discipline, right? We talk about mental fortitude all the time, but what that really means is to be self-disciplined, right? You don't need motivation because you literally are the motivation. You do things because they need to get done, right? So these are things that we work on in private, is the point. And they're all lending back to our character and manifesting fruits of the Holy Spirit. Next slide. Read Matthew chapter 7 and verse 3.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 7, and verse 3. And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thy own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye? And behold, a beam is in thine own eye. Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye.
We're going to talk about hypocrisy later, but he's literally telling you, practice what you preach and adjust yourself before you go to adjust someone else, because you cannot pour from an empty cup or lead from a chaotic home. Whatever it is that you're going to counsel somebody else to do, you better make sure you're doing it, is the point. Let me get the next slide. Give me Proverbs chapter 24 and verse 27.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 24 and verse 27. Prepare thy work without, and make it fit for thyself in the field. And afterwards build thine house.
So there's a process here. You're preparing something, right? We're talking about setting up your day. You're preparing yourself for what you're about to do. You're making it fit for the field. So you're not just throwing anything out there. And then afterwards, you're building the house. So it's a process. Give me Philippians chapter 2 and verse 4.
It's the book of Philippians, chapter 2 and verse 4. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others.
Right. So this is we're gonna go into the preparation a little bit further now and extend it to your family, because your family should see the benefit of your brotherhood. If your wife and kids see brotherhood as a thief that takes you away, you're out of balance. They should see the peace. They should see the joy, the order that comes from you being part of a body of brothers. Right. Now give me Exodus chapter 20 and verse 9.
It's the book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 9. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Right. So your week should be structured. When we talk about 6 days of labor, that just represents the structure. That represents the hard work. And then that day of rest. Right. So it should be structured so that your work week doesn't bleed into your spiritual rest or your family time. Everything needs to be measured. And we're going to talk about that in detail. Give me the next slide. Give me Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 29.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings, and he shall not stand before mean men.
Did you, Salaki, did you skip a slide? Can you just go back one? Because I just want to make sure. See that? I knew something was going on.
No, yes, we just did that.
No,
15.
No, it's okay. So go to the next one. One slide.
Yeah, that's one.
That's okay. Just making sure, because I can't see the numbers like I normally do. You threw me off with it. Go ahead. So read Proverbs 22 and 29 again.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 29. Seest thou a man diligent in his business?
Right.
He shall stand before kings. He shall not stand before mean men.
So when you're diligent in your business and you have everything in order before you start, that preparation that we're talking about is going to make you a better performer. You're not going to just do average work. You're going to do exceptional work. And that's going to cause you to be exceptional in the capacity that you're used, right? He said, you will stand before kings. You shall not stand before mean men or average men, right? Give me Matthew chapter 18 and verse 18.
It's the book of Matthew chapter 18 and verse 18. Verily I say unto you, whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. And whatsoever you shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven.
So this is an attribute that a lot of people skip over. It could be as far as physical fitness. It could be as far as the gifts that you try to get on this side of things in this kingdom. You want to make sure that you understand that everything that we do on this side, Christ said there's going to be a reward attached to it, right? So if you have talents that he gave you and you bury them, that's a problem, because according to the scriptures, that talent is taken away from you and given to somebody who's producing. If you receive 2 talents and you got 4 out of it, then you're going to get a blessing for that, right? If you got 5 talents and you turned it into 10, he mentioned he's going to give you 10 cities for that. So when you understand that what you do now is being bound in the heavens, that should change you. That should make you want to do more on this side and not just be complacent and say, oh, well, I'll get that in the kingdom. Or, I don't have to work on this now because I'm about to get a glorified body. Brother, you might not like the body that you get in the kingdom. I'm just saying, because if you don't work on it now, we don't know what you're going to get in the kingdom, according to what Christ is talking about. So you want to make sure that you're binding things now that you want in the kingdom. Give me Luke chapter 16 and verse 10.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 16 and verse 10. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust and also in much.
Right. And this goes back to our habits once again, because if you focus on maintaining the little that you get, that shows your character. This is what we're talking about. It shows who you are. So if you're focused on maintaining a little bit that you get, you are given more. That's how it works. So if you're faithful in the least thing, you're going to be faithful in much. But if you're unjust in the least things, then you're going to be unjust in much, right? So if you're gaming 40 hours a week and you're working 20, you're working with fake weights. A man's spiritual standing is tied directly to how he handles his physical responsibilities, right? The physical goes into the spiritual and the spiritual goes into the physical. They work hand in hand. Give me the next slide. Give me Ecclesiastes 9 and 10.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9 and verse 10. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might, for there is no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom in the grave, whither thou goest.
So you have to understand, you have to work strategically. Don't just work hard. Work to become undeniable in your craft, right? There's an old saying, everything is beast mode, meaning whatever you do it to the fullest capacity, whether it's your family, whether it's your job, whether it's your health, everything you take it to the furthest extent that you can, because there is no work, device, knowledge, wisdom once you go to the grave, right? Do everything you can while you're here. Give me the next slide. So give me 2 Timothy chapter 2, 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7.
This is the book of 2 Timothy chapter 1 and verse 7. For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
Right. So the spirit that we're given should encourage us, right? We're going to talk more about that. Read Sirach chapter 2 and verse 2.
This is the book of Sirach chapter 2 and verse 2. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in thy time of trouble.
Right. So when we feel overwhelmed, it's likely the spirit of fear or uncertainty. Our stresses usually come from making haste, trying to fix everything in one day. Calm thinking requires the realization that balance in anything is a daily practice, not a one-time destination. So a lot of the problems that we cause for ourselves, we're not going to fix them in one day. That's where faith is going to come in. That's where endurance is going to come in, right? That's where discipline is going to come in to unravel these things and fix them. Next slide. So we're going to talk about some comparisons, right? And these are strategies. So in the body, when you come into one, you're going to find that there's typically 3 different personality types. You're going to have the hermit, who may have been an individualite, or maybe is just an introvert. And this person is a little bit different from the zealot, who's more extroverted, right? And then we're going to talk about the blueprint of what the scriptures actually teach us to mold ourselves into, right? So we can see with the hermit, the personal growth is very high because they're pretty much on their own. There's no drama. There's no accountability for this person, though. And there's a lot of isolation. With the zealot, it's very high social support. But the cons of that is that they might neglect their family in the process of brotherhood. And then it could be some resentment that comes with that because they're neglecting other responsibilities. We're going to talk about what the scripture teaches us to be in balance. Because when you do the blueprint of what the scriptures teach that we were talking about, you get stability, you get respect. But the other side of it is you need extreme discipline in order to pull it off. We're going to talk about what that discipline entails. Give me the next slide. So we kind of went into the hermit profile, right? We're going to go a little further into that. So the pros of the hermit: high personal growth and deep meditation. Zero drama from external sources, because you ain't dealing with nobody but yourself. I can tell you from personal experience, when you sitting on the couch getting 20,000 hours of YouTube, it's just you and your notepad. So you don't have to deal with nothing. You have absolute control over your spiritual schedule. If you want to sit there for 12 hours or 2 hours, that's on you, right? The cons are, though, there's no accountability, and you're vulnerable to the flood of life's trials, right? Where do you go to for counsel? Who's going to check you? You sitting on the couch with a pen and a pad. So the scriptural warning is, woe to him who is alone when he falls. And we're going to go into that. Give me the next slide. So the next profile would be the zealot, right? So the pros are, you get extreme social support. It's brotherhood over everything, right? Unmatched loyalty and identity within the group, right? High energy gatherings, constant motivation, right? The cons are, if you're excessive, you can neglect your own house. And this leads to family resentment and instabilities, whether it be financial or relationship wise. The scriptures talk about providing for your own as being non-negotiable. And we're going to go into that too. Give me the next slide. So the scriptures, the blueprint, teach us that structure equals freedom. And I'm going to explain that. A calculated approach to life that balances individual labor with collective spiritual growth. It respects the grind and the group equally. This is for the man who wants to lead his house and stand with his brothers without sacrificing either. Let me get the next slide. So here's the requirement of the blueprint system: advanced planning. Gathering requires notice and consideration for each other's houses. And we're going to go into that further, what Acts chapter 28 and 23 is saying, right? Because they basically got with Paul and they figured out what day will work for everybody to get together so that he could break down the scriptures from morning into evening. Another requirement is hard conversations, right? We're not always going to get along. Everybody's not going to always be the best of friends, and everybody's not going to always see the eye to eye. So we're going to have the hard conversations and a willingness to have those to stay organized. Extreme discipline is another requirement. Strict adherence to scheduled meditational study time, because we're talking about pouring into yourself first so you can give to others, right? And not always be the one that's on the end of a counsel call. You get to the point where now you can give somebody else counsel because you've been studying. And another requirement is holy gatherings, dedicated time for the Sabbath, new moons, and feast days, right? Because these are requirements that we can't do alone. So now let's get the next slide. So the operational cycle. The blueprint follows a divine cycle of productivity and rest. Long-term stability is achieved when every brother is a provider first, allowing the group to be a source of strength and not a drain on resources, right? Because everybody is functioning as a unit. Now, give me the next slide on that. We're going to go back real quick. So that comparison matrix again, we got the hermit, the zealot, and the blueprint. We have extremes, and then we have balance, right? So we went through the hermit, the pros and the cons of that, the zealot, and what the scriptures actually encourage us to be in discipline, stability, and respect for everyone. Let me get the next slide. So iron sharpeneth iron. Give me Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 17.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
Iron sharpeneth iron,
Mm-hmm.
so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend.
Right. Now, Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 24.
It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 10 and verse 24.
Mhm.
And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together,
Mhm.
as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching.
Right. We're going to go into this. Go to Second Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 3. I'm going to cover
It's the
these.
book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10 and verse 3.
Mhm.
For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh.
Mhm.
For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God,
Right.
and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled.
All right. So we're going to break this down. Give me the next slide. So iron sharpens iron. Isolation breeds stagnation. Strength is forged in secret. We talked about that. But you cannot allow, you cannot have a situation where you sharpen yourself by yourself. It doesn't work like that. And you can't sharpen against a pillow, so to speak, right? You can't sharpen in a comfortable state. You need another piece of iron to sharpen against, right? So that friction with other men is the only way that you're going to sharpen the blade of your character. You don't get sharp alone. You need genuine brothers who will call out your BS and push you in your physical fitness in the gym. I can tell you a quick story. When I first came into Rum, I was 235 pounds, over 30% body fat, and I could barely do one sit-up. My first routine training that I did on a Sunday, I came home in tears because I couldn't believe how far I let myself go. But it was because of the push that my brothers gave me that got me back on track, and I haven't looked back since. So that's just one aspect to where you need somebody to call you out and show you where you are so you can get where you're supposed to be, right? Physical fitness in the gym, your fighting techniques, that's another thing. You know, I picked up boxing because of being in association with brothers who are MMA fighters, wrestlers, boxers, practitioners of karate. So it just motivated me to get my fighting techniques together, to want to protect myself and my family, right? For self-defense. And then it talks about sharpening the real weapons of our warfare in the scriptures, right? Because what do? We fight in the physical, but our real fight is in the spiritual, in the defense of the gospel, in the scriptures that are needed in order for us to win souls, right? So all of these things are needed, and all of these things are influenced by brotherhood. You can't do this stuff by yourself, right? Next slide. Give me Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 32.
It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 32.
Mm-hmm.
He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty.
Right.
He that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city.
Right. So we discussed in greater detail last week. Before you can defend your faith and apologetics, you must govern your own mind. You must identify the strongholds and the systemic patterns of error or pride that are within your own logic first. That has to be the first step. Give me Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8 and 8.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8, verse 8. If a man desire much experience, she knoweth things of old, and conjectureth aright what is to come. She knoweth the subtleties of speeches, and can expound dark sentences.
That was a mouthful, and I don't blame you, because when I read this on my own earlier today, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be interesting. So look, here's the point of what wisdom is talking about here in chapter 8. If you want experience, right, this is talking about wisdom, right? The Holy Spirit is what's going to give you the wisdom, right? So she knows things of old and conjectureth the right what is to come. So it means it prophesies also. He knows the subtleties of speeches and can expound dark sentences. Okay, read the rest of that.
She foreseeth signs and wonders,
Mm-hmm.
and the events of seasons and times.
Right. So, in other words, the Holy Spirit is going to give you the ability to deal with all facets of life, right? And that includes apologetics, right? It's a work of precision, not just power. We must study to use documents, history, and logic to dismantle flawed arguments, right? So we're looking at the past, we're looking at prophecy, what's going to happen in the future, we're looking at what's currently going on in the world so we can make adjustments. And that's all by the Spirit, right? Next slide. Give me 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 27.
It's the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 9 and verse 27.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest that by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway.
Right. So this is talking about, once again, practicing what we preach, right? And making sure that what we're saying to others that we are not guilty of, right? Give me 2 Timothy chapter 2 and
It's
verse 3.
It's the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And if a man also strive in masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he strive lawfully.
So if a man strives for mastery, yet is he not crowned except he strive lawfully. What is Paul talking about here? He's talking about the games that were played, running races. Now, if you run the race with the mindset of just finishing the race, there's a question of whether you're striving lawfully if you jump the gun, so to speak. If we watch the Olympics, if somebody sounds the gun and you ran before the gun started, what happens? You could be disqualified, right? You could actually automatically lose, right, for jumping the gun. What happens if you don't stay in your lane while you're running and you bump into somebody else in their lane, right? That's also a problem, right? So when you're striving for masteries in this race, you are not crowned except you strive lawfully. So you have to follow the rules. You can't jump the gun. You got to stay in your lane. There's a method to this. And then your speed now is a blessing in getting you across that finish line to be crowned, right? So Paul is using the surroundings of what's going on to the congregations when he's speaking to Timothy, because they understand these games and they understand these rules to these games in order to be crowned lawfully, right? So it's the same thing in our race to get the kingdom. There's certain things we have to do a certain way, and you cannot correct disorder in the world if your own logistics or for your life or your conduct are in shambles. You have to be striving lawfully. You must ensure that your personal walk is beyond reproach before engaging in a public debate. Give me the next slide. So Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 11. This is one of my favorite ones. Read that.
It's the book of Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 11. And he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ.
Right.
So we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ.
So he gave some apostles. Not everybody's going to be an apostle. Some prophets. Not everybody's going to be a prophet. Some evangelists. Not everybody's going to be an evangelist. Some pastors. Some teachers for the perfecting of the saints. So we're all part of the same body, but we have different offices. We have different gifts, right? Let me get the next slide. So we're going to talk about some of those gifts, right? And the comparisons, because we talked about some of the personality attributes, right? We're going to talk about some of these gifts and how they might work with our personality. So the scribe, one of the pros of that is high accuracy, deep logic. He avoids carnal ego trips, right? Might be a very humble person, but he builds unshakable foundations. The cons are he risks stagnation in isolation because he kind of introverted, right? He may avoid necessary direct confrontation. So this might be the type of person that, unfortunately, if he has an art with you, you might not find out about it for a little while because he doesn't really know how to come to you and tell you. He doesn't really know how to speak out the things that are bothering him, right? And it may be that this person is perceived as having a secret art. It's just they don't know how to really express themselves as of yet, and they don't know really what foothold they have to stand on in bringing up certain things. So this is something that has to be worked on, but it's part of the personality of this individual, right? Then we have the armor bearer, who focuses on logistics for a warrior. We're going to talk about the warrior profile. He maximizes brotherhood strength. He has a very high operational value. We're going to talk about that. The con to this personality is that he requires extreme trust in a partner. He doesn't work well necessarily by himself. And he's at risk of hiding behind others' shadow because he's not confident enough to really step out on his own and do things. So I can tell you, I've been the scribe, I've been the armor bearer, and I know what it feels like to understand certain things to a certain level, but not be able to put those things into words to really be able to break it down. So I will sit up under somebody and learn from them until I get to a certain level of understanding to where I feel confident to be able to swing the sword myself, right? So I know what it is to be an armor bearer. I know what it is to be a scribe. Now, the thing about hiding in other shadow, I've experienced that too, because sometimes as an armor bearer, you might be pushed out to do something that you don't feel like you're ready for, but the warrior is saying, bro, you swing the sword like I do on this. You should be able to take this debate, or you should be able to do this or do that. And you're like, I'm gonna watch you do it a little bit longer, right? As an armor bearer. Now let's talk about the warrior. He swings the sword when needed. This is the guy that you see in all the debates. This is the guy that you see, when the street teaching comes to a halt because somebody asks a question. Excuse me, brother, let me get that. Yeah, they go ahead and take over. That's the warrior that swings the sword when needed. He fulfills the role of a good soldier. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. We just read it at 2 Timothy chapter 2. But the thing with the warrior, the con is it's a high risk of stress for an introvert to step into that position, right? Because it's a lot of pressure that they have to learn how to discipline themselves to deal with, right? And they're prone to emulation traps and burnout. We're going to talk about that too, because if you aren't solid in your foundation and you go into that warrior profile, then now you feel the need to do it like you saw somebody else do it, as opposed to doing it with the spirit that the Most High gave you, right? It's not as authentic. You'll see it. You'll know what I'm talking about as you pay attention. So go to the next slide. So you may be feeling uncertainty or a sense of inadequacy because you don't fit the warrior profile. Trust me, we all don't coming into this thing, because we just read Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11. Some apostles, some prophets, some teachers, some evangelists, some pastors, right? So in that sense, not everybody is going to be swinging the sword. And we're going to explain why. There's a reason for this. So don't feel inadequate because you don't fit that profile right now. It's a possibility down the road the Most High might increase you to be there. You might feel fear that your reserved nature makes you somehow disobedient to the call of warfare or a cowardice of some sort, especially with this new culture of performative warriors that creates the pressure to be someone that you aren't. Every time you go through maybe a year or so, you just see people popping up out of nowhere. Like, this brother's teaching. Like, where did he come from? Who did he learn from? What school is that? Like, so we have all of these new performative warriors that may put the pressure on us. We've been in the truth for a certain number of years. Why are we not doing this? Right? We're going to talk about it. Give me the next slide. So Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 14. Read that.
It's the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 14.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little city and few men within it, And there came a great king against it,
Right.
and besieged it, and built great bulwarks against it.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was found in it a poor wise man,
Mm.
and he by his wisdom delivered the city.
So by his wisdom, he delivered the city. Go ahead.
Yet no man remembered that same poor man.
Mm-hmm.
Then said I, wisdom is better than strength.
Wisdom is better than strength. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised,
Mm-hmm.
and his words are not heard.
Go ahead.
The words of wise men are heard in quiet more than the cry of him that ruleth among fools.
So it says the words of wise men are heard in quiet more. We're going to talk about that, right? Why is that the case? Go ahead.
Wisdom is better than weapons of war.
It's what?
It's better than weapons of war.
Go ahead.
But one sinner destroyeth much good.
Right. So the wisdom is the key thing. And with all thy getting, get understanding. Right. So you shouldn't even be trying to swing the sword until you have the wisdom and the understanding to do so. Right. Next slide. So your value is not in your volume, but in the truth of your documents or receipts. You should be collecting the information, the data that brings you to the knowledge, the wisdom, and then the understanding to utilize it. Identify your specific gifts. For example, if you're good at deep research, calm writing, or logical deconstruction, some people are really good at that, but they just don't know how to articulate things. Stop trying to swing the sword if you're meant to be an armor bearer or a scribe for right now, right? List 3 common arguments that you feel unequipped to handle. Spend the next 7 days gathering intelligence, right? Do that by scripture, historical facts on these 3 points. Write out a defense or a teaching. You don't have to actually go out and teach this. This is just an exercise for yourself, right? You don't have to shout it. You can publish it, teach it in a small circle. That's how you're going to get your practice and use it. Potentially, you can use it to stabilize a brother. So ensure that you're not in permanent isolation. Find one warrior type that you respect and offer your logistical support to their efforts in teaching. Maybe you do some research for them for something that they're going to do in a class or something that they might do in an effort in a debate or perhaps in defending the gospel. Another suggestion would be to read 1 chapter of Proverbs, Sirach, or Wisdom of Solomon daily to sharpen your logistical wisdom so that now when you come across these things, you know how to apply them. Give me the next slide. Give me Exodus chapter 31 and verse 1.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 31 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him with the Spirit of God, in wisdom, and in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold, and in silver, and in brass, and in cutting of stones, to set them in, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. And I, behold, I have given with him Aholiab, the son of
Ahisamach,
of the tribe of Dan, and in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted, I have put wisdom, that they may make all that I have commanded thee.
So these are men that the Lord put the Holy Spirit on to be artificers. He gave them the knowledge in all manner of workmanship to devise cunning works in gold, silver, and brass, and the cutting of stones. Everybody doesn't have that gift, but he gave it to those men. And he utilizes Bezaleel and these other men to do these works, right? So in understanding that, you have to conscientiously remind yourself that the sword cannot build a temple. Only a craftsman can do that. So you have to utilize the gifts that the Most High has bestowed upon you. It's your job to find out what those gifts are. Next slide. Or cultivate them. Give me Luke chapter 21 and verse 12.
This is the book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 12. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist.
So your goal isn't to be a warrior, it's to be obedient. And if obedience requires a hard word, the Spirit will provide the sword that's necessary for that moment. Next slide. Give me John chapter 15 and verse 13.
It's the book of John, chapter 15 and verse 13.
Mm-hmm.
Greater love hath no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friends.
So you will not die for anyone that you haven't bonded with. You can't lay down your life for a brother you only see occasionally or only watch on YouTube, right? Give me Acts chapter 28 and verse 23.
It's the book of Acts chapter 28 and verse 23. And when they had appointed him a day, there came many to him into his lodging, to whom he expounded and testified the kingdom of God, persuading them concerning Yahawashi, both out of the law of Moses and out of the prophets, from morning till evening.
So we talked about this a little earlier, how we have to be considerate of one another's schedules. And this is an example right here in the Acts of the Apostles, that they had appointed him a day. They told Paul, hey, this day works for us. We can pull up on you and you can explain this. And he literally did so from morning until evening. But that was because they made the preparation, right? So you want to commit to a physical gathering among sincere brothers whenever possible. Do not let YouTube energy replace face-to-face iron sharpening with your brothers. Give me Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 10.
This book of Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 10. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he have not another to help him up.
So if you fall and you're alone, you're done. In genuine brotherhood, when one brother is weak, the others provide the strength. Give me the next slide. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 4.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 23 and verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again.
So we got the Lord in the law calling people enemies that are of our own people. That's interesting. I always found that interesting. And this is right after he gave the 10 Commandments in the 20th chapter. And he's giving us more laws. He's saying, don't let the ox or the ass of your enemy go astray. Bring it back to him. Now read it in Deuteronomy 22 and 1.
It's the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not see thy brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide thyself from them.
Right.
Thou shalt in any case bring them again unto thy brother.
So in the second telling in Deuteronomy, this same enemy is being called your brother. So you must understand the concept that sometimes you will have enemies of your own people. It's unfortunate. And we're going to deal with how we deal with enemies of our own people. Sometimes your brother can turn into your enemy. That's a sad thing, but it happens. It's part of brotherhood. We have to understand it. We have to address it correctly, right? So a brother turns into an enemy. Read Job chapter 31.
It's the book of Job chapter 31 and verse 29.
Mm-hmm.
If I rejoiced at the destruction of him that hated me, or lifted up myself when evil found him, neither have I suffered my mouth to sin by wishing a curse to his soul.
So Job never wished harm on his brothers that became enemies. So that's the first thing we have to keep in mind, right? We don't curse our people for what they do against us. And we're going to get more on this. Give me Proverbs chapter 24.
It's the book of Proverbs 24 and 17. Rejoice not when thy enemy falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth.
Right. Lest
the Lord see it and is displeased, and it displeased him, and he turn away his wrath from him.
Right. And it might be a situation where he turns his wrath that he had on him on you. because of your pride, right? Give me Proverbs 25 and 21.
This is the book of Proverbs 25 and 21.
Mhm.
If thine enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat.
So now we're getting the ingredients of what we're supposed to do with our enemy. Even though they're off, even though they're disrespectful, even though they are not what they're supposed to be, it does not give us a license to curse them or to emulate whatever they're doing to us. We have to still, in the example that we set, be an example to them even. Read that again, 25 and 21.
Verse 21. If thine enemy be hungry,
Right.
give him bread to eat.
Go ahead.
And if he be thirsty, give him water to drink.
But
thou shalt heap coals of fire upon his head, and the Lord shall reward thee.
So you get your reward from the Most High for how you treat his people, regardless of what they do. Right? Give me 1 Thessalonians 5 and 15.
It's the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 15. See that none render evil for evil unto any man, but ever follow that which is good, both among yourselves and to all men.
And to all men. And the point is, we render evil for evil to no one. Next slide. So I'm going to let you get that water because I know you're going to need it because you're about to read. Because how we treat one another is our entrance to the kingdom, right? We do everything that the law says to the best of our ability. It should be natural. It should be spiritual. It should be innate to take care of your people because that's part of the law. A lot of times we might gloss over it and say, well, I keep the Sabbath. I keep the new moon. I do this. I do that. I don't do this. But I can't stand that, brother. I can't stand that, sister. And you allow that to be the reason why you ain't going to get the kingdom. Read Matthew 25 and 31.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 25 and verse 31. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.
Right.
For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee and hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick or in prison and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, and as much as ye have done it unto one of the least of my brethren, ye have done it unto me.
Right. So this is our entrance to the kingdom. How we treat one another is literally what puts us on the right hand or the left hand. Right? He said, enter into the kingdom that is prepared for you from the foundation of the world, because you fed me, you clothed me, you gave me something to drink, you took me in, right? Visited them when they was in prison or sick. When did I do that for you, Lord? When you did it to the least of my brethren. Right? So that's our entrance to the kingdom that we're messing around with when we don't know how to deal with our enemies. We're going to talk about more. Go ahead. Next slide. Read Matthew chapter 5 and verse 43.
It's the book of Matthew, chapter 5 and verse 43. Ye have heard that it have been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy.
Right.
But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you.
Everybody is not going to like you, but you're going to find in this walk, even though they don't like you, you still have to love them. Isn't that interesting? Continue to read.
And persecute you,
Mm-hmm.
that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good,
Right.
and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust.
Mm-hmm.
For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye?
You don't get a reward for loving who loves you. You get a reward for loving those who don't even like you. Read.
Do not even the publicans the same?
Mm-hmm.
And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so?
Mm-hmm.
Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect.
Right. So that's what makes you perfect. Being able to know in your heart that someone does not like you, and you still have a principled love, agape love for this person enough, you'll still feed them. You'll still give them something to drink. You'll still visit them sick or in prison. You'll still give them the shirt off your back, regardless, even though you know that person can't stand your guts. Whatever. What you need, bro? Right? Give me Galatians chapter 6 and verse 2.
It's the book of Galatians, chapter 6 and verse 2. Bear ye one another's burdens,
Mm-hmm.
and so fulfill the law of Christ.
Right. So this means supporting a brother during a temporary crisis. We kind of went into this, like sickness, dire straits, until he can stand on his own. If he's hungry, if he's, if he needs something. Next slide. So Galatians chapter 6 and verse 5. We just read 6 and 2, where it said, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. But now read Galatians 6 and 5.
It's the book of Galatians, chapter 6 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Every man shall bear his own burden.
But I thought you were supposed to bear the burden. Which one is it? So now we got to kind of explain this now, because Paul's saying two different things. So he said in 2, bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. But then he's saying, but every man shall bear his own burden. So the point here is, you have to carry your own weight. Every man must bear his own load. There's a difference between carrying a burden and carrying a load. If you see something that's too heavy for your brother, you help him with it. But if he's working, you don't carry everything for him, right? You have to carry your own weight. You have to bear your own load. So for instance, your fitness, your job, your bills, that's your responsibility. If you don't carry your load, you're just a passenger in another man's life. That's the point. Give me 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8.
It's the book of 1 Timothy, chapter 5 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he have denied the faith and is worse than the infidel.
So wherever you live, whether it's your own home with your wife and your children, or if you're staying with family members or brothers, if you don't provide for your house, you are worse than an infidel. You must provide for wherever you're at. Next slide. Sirach 29 in the GNT, in the Good Night Bible. Read Sirach chapter 29 and verse 1.
It's the book of Sirach, Ecclesiastes, chapter 29 and verse 1. Be kind enough to lend to your neighbor when he needs help. You are keeping the Lord's commands if you help him. If he needs something, lend it to him. And when you are in debt, pay it back as soon as you can. If you meet your obligations, you will always be able to borrow what you need. Many people treat a loan as something they found and keep, causing embarrassment to those who help them. Some people will speak politely, bow, and scrape until they get the loan they want. But when the time comes to pay it back, they'll put it off, say that it's inconvenient, and make a lot of worthless excuses. If the lender insists on being paid, he can count himself lucky to get back half. If he doesn't insist, the borrower has robbed him and made an unnecessary enemy. All the lender will get from him are curses, insults, and disrespect, but never any gratitude. Many people refuse to lend at all, not because they are stingy, but because they don't want to be cheated if they can't avoid it.
It says what it says. Next slide.
It's the book of Sirach, Ecclesiastes 29:8. Nevertheless, be understanding with those who are poor. Don't keep them waiting for your generosity. The Lord has commanded us to help the poor. Don't refuse them the help they need. It is better to lose your money by helping a relative or a friend than to lose it by letting it rust away under a rock somewhere.
Hmm.
Use your wealth as the Most High has commanded. This will do you more good than keeping your money for yourself. Count among your treasures the fact that you give to the poor.
Hmm.
It will save you from all kinds of trouble and will be a better defense against your enemies than the strongest shield or stoutest spear. A good man is willing to guarantee his neighbor's debts. Only someone who has lost all sense of decency would refuse to do so.
I don't even need to break this down. This is plain upon tables. Continue to read. Next slide.
Sirach 29:15. If someone does this favor for you, don't forget it. He has risked his own good name for you. There are some ungrateful sinners who abandon those who stand behind them, and they cause them loss of property. Guaranteeing loans has ruined many prosperous people and caused them unsettling storms of trouble. Influential people have lost their homes over it and have had to go wandering in foreign countries. A sinner who hopes to make a profit by guaranteeing a loan is going to find himself involved in lawsuits. So help your neighbor as much as you can, but protect yourself against the dangers involved.
Hmm.
The necessities of life are water, food, clothing, and a home where you can have privacy.
Next slide.
This is 29.
Same chapter. We reading the whole chapter, brother.
Okay.
I'm just making it plain. Go ahead,
There's
read.
a book of Sirach 29 and 22. So just read through it.
Yep, just read it.
Okay. It is better to be poor and live under your own crude roof than to enjoy lavish banquets in other people's homes.
Hmm.
Be happy with what you have, even if it isn't very much. And don't listen to anyone who would insult your home and family. Going from house to house is a miserable way to live. Anywhere you go, you don't dare to speak. You welcome the guests and pour the drinks, and nobody thanks you. Instead, people humiliate you by saving things like Slovakia. Nobody thanks you. Instead, people humiliate you by saying things like, stranger, come here and lay the table. I want to eat what you've got there. Give it here. Go away, stranger. I've got an important guest. My brother is coming to visit, and I need the room. Being denied hospitality or having a moneylender hound you, these are hard things for any sensitive person to endure.
So go ahead, next slide. So I wanted that read in its entirety without me interrupting, because when I read this chapter of Sirach, chapter 29, there were so many things that applied to the situation of what we're talking about. I couldn't pick just one or two or three or five verse. I said, I'm just going to read the whole thing in the GNT because it just makes so much sense when you just read it. So the scriptures are clear that while we must be kind to our people, those who are capable must not be a burden on others. Hospitality is for a season, a meal, a night. It's not a lifestyle. Being a burden is miserable, and the owner of the house has the right to reclaim their space for their own needs. Pretty much what it's saying. But there's so many little nuances in there that I think is something that we have to go back and read it at our own convenience. I didn't want to, take too much time on it, trying to break down the whole chapter, but that's why I had it read in the GNT. Give me the next slide. Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 4.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 20 and verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
The sluggard will not plow by reason of the cold. Therefore shall he beg in harvest and have nothing.
Proverbs 24 and 30.
This is Proverbs 24 and 30. I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man.
So the scriptures frequently rebuke the sluggard who desires the harvest without planting. If a person is consistently eating your food, utilizing your resources, without contributing appropriately to your house, they are operating in the spirit of the slothful man who expects the fruit of another's vineyard. Next slide. So these scriptures in Sirach remind us that brothers taking advantage of the kindness of the brotherhood are actually polluting themselves. By allowing this behavior to continue, you aren't being holy or kind to your brother. You are enabling their sloth, which is spiritually detrimental to them. True kindness is holding people accountable to their own dignity. Next slide. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 6.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 9 and verse 6. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according to as he proposeth in his heart, so let him give not grudgingly, or of necessity, of God loveth a cheerful giver.
So you don't want to give grudgingly, or because you feel you have to out of necessity, because God loves a cheerful giver. 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 8.
This is 1 Peter 4 and 8. And above all things have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover a multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging.
So we can't give and then be grudging later, wishing that we had not. We want to do it in the right spirit. You can help a brother survive his sickness, but you cannot carry his load indefinitely at the expense of your own peace. If you are helping a brother at the expense of your own peace, or if you developed some form of grudge, the arrangement is out of balance and needs to be adjusted. Remember, this entire lesson is about the balance of brotherhood and the blueprint behind it. Next slide. So now, Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 24.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 18 and verse 24. A man that has friends must shew himself friendly, and there is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother.
So there's levels to this. You have brothers and you have friends. In Sirach chapter 6 and verse 7.
The Sirach chapter 6 and verse 7. If thou wouldest get a friend, prove him first, and be not hasty to credit him. For some man is a friend for his own occasion, and will not abide in the day of thy trouble.
Go ahead.
And there is a friend who, being turned to enmity,
so now y'all have issues. Go ahead.
And strife, will discover thy reproach.
Now he's going to talk about you behind your back. Go ahead.
Again, some friend is a companion at the table and will not continue in the day of thy affliction.
Right. So that's a plain thing. I mean, we have to understand everybody is not your true friend. You must prove a friend, right? And you have to pay attention. We're going to continue on this. Give me the next slide. So the point is, you can't trust everybody. A table friend is only there for the food or what you have to offer for his occasion or for his purpose. A trouble friend is there for the fight in the day of trouble to come. So give me Sirach chapter 6 and verse 13.
Just the book of Sirach, Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 13. Stay away from your enemies and be on guard against your friends.
Damn. Did the Bible just say that?
Drink some water on that.
Yeah, drink some water, brother. Did the Bible just say that? So the Bible said, stay away from your enemies and be on guard against your friends. Go ahead.
A loyal friend is like a safe shelter. Find one.
Find one.
Find one. and you have found a treasure.
So it's rare. Read.
Nothing else is as valuable.
Nothing else is as valuable. Go ahead.
There is no way of putting a price on it.
Mm-hmm.
A loyal friend
A
is like
loyal friend. Go ahead.
a loyal friend is like a medicine that keeps you in good health.
Wow. Read.
Only those who fear the Lord can find such a friend.
Wait a minute. So that's spiritual. You have to fear the Lord in order to be able to ascertain, even if you have a loyal friend. Go ahead.
A person who fears the Lord can make real friendships
Mm-hmm.
because he will treat his friends as he does himself.
I had to put this in the GNT so that it's plain upon tables, right? This is Sirach chapter 6 and 13 through 17 in the GNT, right? Next slide.
That's crazy.
So now, Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17.
Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him.
Right. So that's plain upon tables, right? Now give me Matthew chapter 5 and verse 23.
This is the book of Matthew chapter 5 and verse 23. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift.
So have an uncomfortable conversation with your spouse or a brother within 24 to 48 hours to clear any grudges or oughts. Do not let that stagnate. Don't hate your brother in your heart and carry secret oughts. Tell him to his face the way that Christ instructed us at Matthew chapter 5 and Matthew chapter 18. We're going to go in detail of how to do that. Next slide. Matthew chapter 18 and verse 15.
This is the book of Matthew chapter 18 and verse 15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone.
Read.
If he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established.
Right.
And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as an heathen man and a publican.
Next slide. Okay. So let's break this down. This is the conflict resolution playbook. So level 1, the low key. Keep it 101, pull them aside, and keep it 100 in private. If you're successful, the relationship is saved. You have protected the brotherhood. No one even knows that this happened but y'all, because y'all resolved it. You're on to the next. Now, if this doesn't work, level 2. Still, everybody doesn't know what's going on. It's an inner circle situation. Squad up. Take 1 or 2 neutral witnesses. 1 or 2 people that doesn't have any skin in the game, doesn't necessarily have any vested interest in what's going on. Not ganging up on this person. Just getting neutral witnesses. Hopefully, this sets the record straight. There's no more he said, she said. You gained your brother. If this doesn't work, level 3, you take it to the boardroom. Elevate to the OGs. Go to leadership for clear resolution on a situation. Now, at this point, there should be total accountability on what's going on, and either it comes to a resolution or going forward to protect your peace. Next slide. So now, what is the advantage of doing it Christ's way? It's gangster. Say that because when you watch these old mafia movies, whenever there's a problem, what do? We got to call it. We got to call a sit down, Paulie. These guys, I don't know. We got to sit down, right? So even the heathen know you do a sit down face to face. You talk about it, right? Real men handle business face to face, not through the screen or group chat. And this shows heart and it shows maturity. Second advantage, it protects the brand. It protects your name. Your name is greater than gold. Don't be known as a snitch or a gossiper. Be known as the man who handles business with order. Third advantage, it filters your circle. Christ ran with 12 and got rid of one. Somebody had to go. You got to understand everybody's not for you. And sometimes this just filters the circle down. Let's be honest. This process separates brothers who care about growth from the toxic ones who want chaos. It is what it is. Next slide. Galatians chapter 2 and verse 11.
This is the book of Galatians, chapter 2 and verse 11. But when Peter was come to Antioch, I withstood him to the face because he was to be blamed.
So look, Paul said, look, I withstood Peter to his face, right? He did exactly what Christ said. Face to face, we're going to deal with it. Go ahead.
For before that certain came from James, he did eat with the Gentiles. But when they were come, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing them which were of the circumcision.
Go ahead.
And the other Jews dissembled likewise with him. In so much that Barnabas also was carried away with their dissimulation.
Okay, so Paul had to stand face to face with Peter because of how he was handling the situation, because men that came down from James pulled up. They were eating with people who was uncircumcised, and they jumped up like they wasn't sitting with them. Paul's like, what's wrong with y'all? Why y'all acting like that? Right? So he called them out on it, right? Same thing with Barnabas, because Barnabas was rolling with him too. And Barnabas says he also was carried away with their dissimulation. We're going to talk about what dissimulation is. That's not your average word. Next slide. So dissimulation, G5272, hypocrisy, which is where we get the word for hypocrisy. He was being a hypocrite. And Paul called them out on it, right? Now we see later on, same person who got called out for hypocrisy is now saying in 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1, wherefore, matter of fact, you read that, Salaki.
1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1, wherefore laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisy.
And what?
Hypocrisy and envies and all evil speakings.
Okay. So the point is, the hypocrisy is being spoken against by Paul. And then later on, we see here in his letter, Peter is also calling out the hypocrisy, right? So sometimes we have to call people out for hypocrisy. It is what it is. Next slide. So Acts chapter 12 and verse 25, we're going to go through a scenario with Barnabas and Paul.
This is the book of Acts chapter 12 and verse 25. And Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem when they had fulfilled their ministries and took with them John, whose surname was Mark.
So Mark is the nephew of Barnabas. He's also known as John, and he's also known as Marcus. We're going to learn more about this situation with him. Next scripture, Acts 13 and 13.
It's the book of Acts chapter 13 verse 13. Now when Paul and his company loosed from Paphos, they came to Perga and Pamphylia, and John departing from them returned to Jerusalem.
He's got another name, by the way. So it's John, Mark, Marcus. Just so you know, it's the same guy, but you just got different surnames that they use for him. So this individual, who is Barnabas' nephew, when they got to Pamphylia, he left them and went back to Jerusalem. Okay, now give me Acts chapter 15 and verse 1.
This is the book of Acts chapter 15 and verse 1. And certain men which came down from Judea taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissensions and disputation with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain other of the men certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and elders about this question.
So now they taking it to the congregation. They taking it to the boardroom because they teaching men that you have to be circumcised after the manner of Moses to be saved. They're coming up from Judea with this. He said, now we're going down to Jerusalem. We're going to go talk to the elders about this. They got into an argument with these men. They withstood them to their face. And now this is going to the level of the elders. So you can read Acts chapter 15, see exactly what happened. But let's get to the point of what happened with Paul and Barnabas after everything with this matter about circumcision. Read Acts chapter 15 to 36.
This book of Acts, chapter 15 and verse 36. And some days after Paul said unto Barnabas, let us go again and visit our brethren in every city where we have preached the word of the Lord, and see how they do. And Barnabas determined to take with them John.
So he wants to take his nephew, Mark, John, Marcus. He wants to take him back with them, because remember, the same nephew left them when they were in Pamphylia and went to Jerusalem. So now they back in Jerusalem. So they, hey, let's bring them back with us. Read.
To take with them John, whose third name was Mark, but Paul thought not good to take him with
Paul
them,
ain't want to bring him. Go ahead.
who departed from them from Pamphylia.
Pamphylia. So he left them in Pamphylia. Go ahead.
And went not with them to the work.
You're like, what are you bringing this guy for? He left us the last time. Go ahead.
And the contention was so sharp between them.
So they had an argument about this. Go ahead.
That they departed asunder, one from the other.
So they got into such a heated back and forth. They just walked away from each other and just stopped speaking to each other. Go ahead.
And so Barnabas took Mark and sailed unto Cyprus.
So he took his nephew. He went to Cyprus. Go ahead.
And Paul chose Silas and departed, being recommended by the brethren unto the grace of God. And he went through Syria and Cilicia, confirming the churches.
Okay, so after that, Paul and Barnabas stopped working together over this matter, right? Because he had a problem with Barnabas bringing his nephew back that left him. Next slide. So now read Colossians chapter 4 and verse 10. Let's see how this plays out.
This is the book of Colossians, chapter 4 and verse 10. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner, saluteth you. And Marcus.
So Marcus, this is John. This is Marcus, right? Go ahead.
Sister's son to Barnabas.
So this is talking about Barnabas' nephew here. Go ahead.
Touching whom ye received commandments, if he come unto you, receive him.
So hold on. This is the guy that y'all was arguing about. Now Paul's working with him. They're cool now. He's saying, touching whom ye receive commandments, if he come to you, receive him. Right? So now read Philemon chapter 1 and verse 24.
Book of Philemon chapter 1 and verse 24. Marcus.
Same guy that they was arguing about. Barnabas' nephew. Go ahead, Marcus.
Aristarchus. Demas. Lucas. My fellow laborers.
Now they fellow laborers. He's not dealing with Barnabas. They was arguing over this guy. But now he's cool with his nephew. Right? Give me 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 9.
2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 9. Do thy diligence to come shortly unto me, for Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world, and is departed unto Thessalonica. Crescens, that's it. Crescens to Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me.
Go ahead.
Take Mark.
This is Mark. This is the nephew of Barnabas. Go ahead.
Take Mark and bring him with thee, for he is profitable to me for the ministry.
He's profitable to me for the ministry. So he's working closely with Barnabas' nephew right now. This is the guy y'all was fighting about, that y'all had a sharp contention about, and now you working with him, right? So we see John, Mark or Marcus, Barnabas' nephew, who the separation was over, as a fellow laborer working with Paul under Paul's direction at this point. See how things can be so, we say the word petty, and how they work out in the end. Let me get the next slide. So now let's see what he said about Barnabas. He had this sharp contention with him. He's now working with his nephew, right? that he was arguing about. Give me 1 Corinthians chapter 9.
This is 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 1.
Mhm.
Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Yahawashi, our Lord? Are not ye my work in the Lord? If I be not an apostle unto others, yet doubtless I am to you. For the seal of mine apostleship are ye in the Lord. Mine answer to them that do examine me is this: have we not power to eat and to drink? Have we not power to lead about a sister, a wife, as we all, as other apostles, and as the brethren of the Lord in Cephas?
That's Peter. Go ahead.
For I only am in Barnabas. Have not we power to forbear working?
So he's mentioning Barnabas as his peer, as his apostle. Paul wrote 1 Corinthians approximately 4 to 5 years after the split that we read about in Acts chapter 15 and verse 39. The reference here to Barnabas shows that despite their earlier disagreement, Paul still viewed Barnabas as a fellow laborer, a peer, and a legitimate apostle, even though he wouldn't work again closely with Barnabas as they had years before. He was working with his nephew, but not him. Next slide. So the point here is we can have situations and fallouts with brethren, but that doesn't mean that we stop working with them, is the point. Everybody's not going to be your best friend. Everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to be close to you, but the work still has to get done, is the point. Give me Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 5.
This is Proverbs 27 and 5. Open rebuke is better than secret love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful.
Right. Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 19.
This is Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 19. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment.
Give me Ephesians 4 and 25.
This is the book of Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 25. Wherefore putting away lying, speaking every man truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one of another.
Galatians chapter 4 and verse 16.
This is the book of Galatians chapter 4 and verse 16. I am therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth.
Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? Paul was getting on folks, right? They ain't like it. He said, am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? It happens sometimes, right? But you have to address the friction immediately because that prevents water under the bridge from turning into a spiritual poison, right? Next slide. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1. Now we're going to talk about the tactics that we use when we approach situations, right? Go ahead, read that.
This is Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger.
How many people have left bodies because they didn't like the way somebody spoke to them? I'll let that marinate. We have to be careful about how we speak to one another. The scriptures encourage that, right? Give me Sirach chapter 32 and verse 8.
It's the book of Sirach chapter 32 and verse 8. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue.
So sometimes people might be accused of being long-winded. We all got to work on that, because sometimes when our emotions get involved or when we're trying to tell our side of a thing, you can be long-winded. Scriptures say, cut it short, be respectful of the dialogue, right? Give me Sirach chapter 11 and verse 7.
It's the book of Sirach chapter 11 verse 7. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke.
Go ahead.
Answer not before thou hast heard the cause. Neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk.
So if somebody's bringing an ought to you, hear them out. Let them finish. Don't interrupt them. Let them land. If you're the one that's bringing the ought, somebody's responding, let them respond. Hear them out. Point is, we have to examine one another, right? We have to consider one another above ourselves. Next slide. Colossians chapter 4 and verse 6.
It's Colossians chapter 4 and verse 6. Let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man.
So you can't answer every man the same way. You might have a relationship with somebody to where you can be a little rougher with them because they understand you a little better and they know you don't mean no harm in the way that you speak to them. Other people, you have to be a little bit more tactical because you don't have that friendship that we spoke about earlier. Y'all are just brothers. Y'all not like that. So you have to be even more seasoned with salt, right? Give me Romans chapter 12 and verse 1.
It's the book of Romans, chapter 12 and verse 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think.
Don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. Go ahead.
But to think soberly, according as God has dealt to every man the measure of faith.
Go ahead.
For as we have many members in one body.
We talked about those different members with different functions. Everybody has their different gift the Most High has bestowed. Go ahead.
And all members have not the same office. So we being many are one body in Christ, and every one members one of another.
Right. Next slide. So the salt. Let your words be seasoned with salt, that it may administer grace to the hearer. Salt is a purifier and a preservative. So our words, when seasoned, enhance the palatability of the sacrifices. All sacrifices are required to be seasoned with salt, and our bodies are a living sacrifice. We look at the facts of the situations without making excuses. We call the problems for exactly what they are, in truth. However, we don't use the truth to shame people. With grace, we speak the truth to build a solution. We speak to the problem with the intent to heal and move forward, not to condemn. Uncomfortable conversations are the only way to keep the brotherhood, the fellowship, the ship from sinking. Next slide. So identify which areas of balance, whether it's self, family, or brotherhood, are being neglected by you. Stop isolating yourself. Resolve your oughts. Call one solid brother this week and encourage him and be encouraged. Audit your house. Fix one thing in your family or your living space today that is out of order. Read the blueprint, which is the scriptures. Pick up Proverbs, Wisdom of Solomon, or Sirach, for example, for 30 to 60 minutes every morning before you touch your phone. I pray that this lesson has sounded down into your mind and heart to keep the law, statutes, and commandments in the faith of Yahawashi.